Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be speaking directly to people who have a loved one who is in hospital for a mental health problem. I get a lot of comments and messages from people who are feeling really powerless and kind of desperate for answers about how to best support someone who is in the hospital. And so that is what I'm going to be talking about, and that is who I'm going to be talking to in today's video. So I have been in the hospital myself for mental health problems a handful of times. And so I kind of have an idea of the stress that it places on people who love the person who is in hospital, people who are supporting the person who is in hospital. That was one of my biggest concerns and fears while I was in hospital, especially this last time, was what kind of stress that was putting on my partner. And, if he was able to cope okay with all of that, and worrying that he was worried that he wasn't supporting me in the best way, or, I understand where a lot of those feelings from the support person come from. I have also been a support person for someone who is in the hospital for a mental health problem. And so I kind of understand a little bit even further, kind of from both sides, about what a support person may be feeling while someone is in hospital, and kind of understand that sense of almost powerlessness and grasping for ways to better support your loved one, because it isn't really super clear cut. And so I want to convey that I understand what you may be going through right now from both sides of the coin. And hopefully some of the things that I talk about in this video will help ease some of that. All right, so first and foremost, the thing that I really want to convey is just to hang in there. Especially, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that they are back in the hospital, and it's not their fault that they're back in the hospital. Relapses happen. They happen all the time, and it's just kind of part of the deal with living with a mental illness, unfortunately. And so don't beat yourself up. It's nothing you did, and it's nothing they did either. It's just how things played out right now. It's easy to get lost in asking yourself why this is happening, and, beating your head against the wall in terms of trying to figure out what exactly precipitated this, or, why your loved one is in this situation right now. But there's really no sense in doing this, because there's not really a good answer to that. And, again, relapses happen. It's just kind of part of the deal with mental illness. And so learning to accept that, I think, will help ease some of that desperation that you may be feeling. Another thing is to try not to have any expectations about how treatment should go or how long it should take to recover. Recovery in itself is a very broad concept, and it's more of a journey than an end point. And so understanding that recovery looks very different for every person, and there's no real set established formula for how a person who's experiencing mental health distress can recover. It looks different for every person. And so being flexible in your understanding of how long it might take for your loved one to get to a more stable place, or being more flexible in terms of what treatment and what recovery essentially looks like for your loved one, will also help. Your loved one is going through all of these kind of questions and expectation management issues too. And so it's really important not to dictate to them what to do in order to recover, and not to place any of your own thoughts or ideas about what they should be doing to recover. That said, you can definitely facilitate conversations with them with different tips that you might think might be helpful, like facilitating a conversation about getting enough rest and enough sleep, or, working on healthy nutrition, or working on being active, or working with them to reach out to other people in their support network and to build relationships back up again. Facilitating these conversations with your loved one will be a lot more effective than just dictating them to them. Like I mentioned before, there really is no endpoint to recovery. Recovery is an ongoing process that your loved one is going to be working on and working through, hopefully with your support. And so it's really best to kind of slow things down and really try to take things one day at a time. There's no sense in getting ahead of yourself about where you want them to be in a week or a month or whatever. it's really best to just kind of evaluate where things are at that day with your loved one and with you, and work together to, work with that reality and work together with how things are in that day. It's also really important to remember the fact that you are not there to provide medical treatment for them. You are not a part of their medical treatment team. You are a support person in their life. And so your role is really to be there as a source of familiar comfort and familiar support for your loved one. It is not to oversee, the exactitudes of their medical treatment or, of the care that they're receiving. It's really just to be there as a source of support and someone to walk through that with them. So sometimes this can just mean simply sitting with them and just being present with them. And if they want to talk about what's going on, talk about what's going on. If they want to talk about something else, talk about something else with them. Just be there as a source of comfort for them and a source of support through it all. Something that really helped me while I was in the hospital was when my loved ones would bring in games to play, or they would bring in nice treats or drinks or, from the outside world, just to kind of remind your loved one of their life outside of the hospital and who they are outside of the hospital. And, playing games with them can really help to remember the valuable relationships that they have outside of their current predicament too. And that those relationships are really important and that, you're there for them through all of this. If you don't have the strongest relationship as it currently stands, you can still be there to support them. I think it's important not to just kind of pretend that your relationship is perfect. If it's not, I think, maybe there will be room to kind of talk about that, but maybe not. Maybe they're not in a place where they're ready to talk about that. But I think a really important way, regardless of your relationship with this person, is just to be there and to let them know that there are people in their life, who care about them and support them and want to help them get through this period. So I said that it's not your job to be a part of the medical care team for your loved one, but it might be a part of your job, or it might be helpful for your loved one to be an advocate for them. So this could mean attending doctor's appointments or psychiatrist appointments or counseling appointments or dietitian appointments or whatever appointments they're having at the hospital. If they are comfortable with you attending with them, definitely have that conversation first. But if they are comfortable with you attending, that can be a tremendous source of support. I know when I was in the hospital, I was under pretty heavy medication and I couldn't always remember what I couldn't even remember talking to the doctor sometimes, never mind what we talked about. And so having someone there with me to be a second set of ears was really helpful afterward. And it also helped to be able to talk with my loved one about the things that we talked to the doctor about afterward too. If they have any concerns about their care but aren't really sure how to speak up about it or how to address it, this might be a place where you could step in as well to kind of be that mediation point between them and the doctors in terms of conveying your loved one's wishes and also trying to communicate maybe your doctor's goals or ideas in their treatment plan with your loved one, and just kind of being that middle person to make things smoother a little bit and also to advocate for your loved one if necessary. The biggest thing that I want to convey is just the importance of talking with them and being there for them and letting them know that you're there for them. Try to find out if there's anything that you can do that would make things easier for them or that would help them in any way. And a lot of times they may not necessarily know what might be helpful in that instance. And so maybe offering suggestions of ways that you could help them or be helpful might facilitate them being able to say, oh yes, that would be helpful for me. And, facilitating that conversation about how best to help them and support them. You might also be met with resistance if they're saying that they don't want any help or they don't want your support or that kind of thing. And I understand how that can be really tough to hear. But I want to encourage you to try not to take that personally. Your loved one is in a very stressful position right now, and they're probably feeling a little bit fearful and distrustful of kind of everyone around them if they're feeling this way. And so just trying to be compassionate of that fact and to not give up being there for them, showing up for them, and just being a supportive presence for them. Another really important thing that I want to touch on is discharge. And so, when your loved one is discharged and leaves the hospital, it can be it can be tempting to kind of breathe a sigh of relief at this point because, okay, they're out of the hospital, things are getting better. However, this is kind of a critical point in terms of providing even more support. Your loved one is in a bit of a vulnerable position after leaving the hospital. Suicide rates go up after leaving hospital, and people are generally more at risk of being in distress immediately following hospitalization for a mental health problem. And so this is really the time to pour as much support as you can their way because, they no longer have access to the supports and care teams that they did while in hospital. And it can be kind of hard to continue along the same trajectory of recovery on your own outside of hospital. So really trying to check in with them as much as possible and still finding out ways that you can maybe help and support them through that would be really helpful. And one thing that I really, really want to stress is the importance of your own self-care. Make sure throughout this entire process that you are taking care of yourself and making sure that you are getting the care that you need and the support that you need as well. It's very stressful having a loved one in the hospital under any circumstance, but especially if they're in the hospital for a mental health problem, that's a little bit more difficult to understand and for everyone to wrap their heads around. And so make sure that you are taking care of yourself too. Make sure that you are getting enough sleep, proper nutrition, make sure that you are taking care of your body and your own mind. If therapy feels like a good fit, I think that that's a really, really great idea. I generally recommend this to anyone who is supporting a loved one with a serious mental illness. I recommend therapy to anyone, period. But especially if you have an added stressor in your life, such as caregiving or support for a loved one with a mental illness. Also, make sure that you are reaching out to your own support network to be supported throughout this process. It's really important for your loved one to be connected with their loved ones, but it's also important for you to be connected with your own support network throughout this stressful journey. So that's kind of the gist of what I want to convey to you. If you have a loved one who is in the hospital for a mental health problem, I know that it's a really stressful time, but I think that the most important thing that I want to convey to you is the importance of not losing hope. I want to say that things are going to get better, and a lot of the time they will. Sometimes they won't, but you can't lose hope that you will be able to get to a stable place with your loved one and things will be better than they currently are. You are not alone going through this. There are a lot of people who reach out to me all the time about their concerns about having a loved one in the hospital and how they feel powerless and in distress themselves over, not knowing what to do and that kind of thing. So you are not alone in that struggle or that difficulty. It might be valuable to reach out to find out if there are any support groups for caregivers in your area or online or wherever. There are other people who are going through the same thing you are and who are feeling the same things you are. And it's so important to keep hope throughout it all. All right, so thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to help support the creation of future videos like this one, make sure to check out our Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Also, we have another video that we did before that is similar to this one, but a little bit different. It's called How to Support Someone with Schizophrenia or Schizoaffective Disorder. So make sure to check that one out. Also, make sure to subscribe so as not to miss any future videos that we put out. Thank you so much again for watching, and as always, wishing you and your loved ones good health. See you in the next video. Bye.